Yes, ma'am.
Or fifth seal.
What? Mm-hmm. Yes, I'll make him wait and take it too. He was absent. Yeah. All right. So let's get back. Sorry, people at home, as your fellow classmates have scolded me for not taking care of the people at home. I'm sorry. You didn't miss much. We're only up to page 12M. We're at the ratification. People shocked that the Articles of the Confederation were scrapped. And again, secrecy, bless you. Secrecy had left the country in the dark. That was on purpose. That was intentional. They did not release any information. They kept boards on the windows. They didn't let anybody in, and that was on purpose. So our ratification debate begins in these states, and this is our Federalist versus Anti-Federalist. So one of the things that we'll be looking at in our next chapter, and as we move forward, and we look at the presidency of George Washington, one of the things that's going to come up is this lovely thing called political parties. And it will be an interesting event as we move forward in our country. The way these political parties line out. Federalists are really going to begin to be a political party. Anti-Federalist will slowly turn into a political party that will be called Democratic Republicans. Those of you that have on your PSA Anti-Federalist, it will also say Democratic Republicans so that you can find a little more information on that. So we have to ratify this thing. Special elections are going to be held in each of these state legislatures, and 4 small states will quickly ratify it. Delaware, New Jersey, Georgia, Connecticut. And that's because they felt like they were protected, vote very quickly. Pennsylvania is going to be the first large state. You do not have to know these in order at all. There will never be question. But the critical test is going to be Massachusetts. Massachusetts, again, leader of the revolution, leader of this idea was where Shays' Rebellion takes place. And if Massachusetts doesn't ratify this, then there's going to be big trouble. And the ratification will pass 187 to 168. 3 more states will quickly do that, Maryland, South Carolina, and New Hampshire. And then we've got these last 4 states, which will be Virginia, New York, and then, of course, North Carolina and Rhode Island. And if you look at 3, I'm going to go through all these, but if you look at 3, North Carolina and Rhode Island only ratify it after it's already in effect, right? Like, what's the heck? What's the point? Just so that you know about this stuff, the amendment that gives women the right to vote, there are some southern states that don't ratify that amendment until the year I'm born. Just saying. Just so you know, that ratification process is always interesting. It didn't make any difference, obviously, because it was the law of the land, just like North Carolina and Rhode Island waiting forever to do that. But our last 4 states ratified because they had to, because we already have 9. With those last 3 states, Maryland, South Carolina, and New Hampshire, the Constitution will be officially adopted June 21st, 1788. And our last 4 states ratified because they had to, not because they wanted to. And that would be Virginia. Patrick Henry, fiercest critic. He thinks that the Constitution is going to kill liberty. Washington, Madison, and John Marshall are all Federalist, and they are arguing on the side of the Constitution. George Mason refuses to sign the Constitution. Virginia will shortly ratify it. Did not want to be an isolated independent state. New York, only state to have manhood suffrage. That state, again, allows all men to vote. And in New York will be the beginnings of a secondary rise of Alexander Hamilton with his Federalist Papers, in which they're writing all these papers in support of the Constitution. Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, James Madison wrote an influential series of articles for the New York newspaper. Those are all articles, those Federalist Papers. Most important commentary ever written on the Constitution. And this is referred to these Federalist Papers constantly during constitutional conflicts. So when constitutional conflicts come up, what does the Constitution really mean? I think it's significant and important that in modern day times, we still go back and read the Federalist Papers. If you take any upper level poli-sci class, a political science class above a 200 level, or maybe a 200 level, depending on what the course is, you're going to have to read Federalist Papers. And there's specific ones that you'll have to read each time. There's 85 of them, and each one of them has a particular importance that they are discussing. But the Federalist Papers are probably some of the most important works by our founding fathers about this Constitution that we have. Let's see. Federalist X by Madison is the most famous. It refueled the conventional belief that it is impossible to extend a Republican form of government over a large territory. So, North Carolina, Rhode Island don't ratify it until after, again, both states ruggedly individualist. Rhode Island, only state not to attend the Constitutional Convention. So as you're getting ready to work on that PSA, on page 14 is a really nice look. You know me, and I like my charts, about the differences between Federalist and Anti-Federalist. And again, they have some major objections to the Constitution. They oppose a standing army. They oppose, oppose omitting any reference to God, against the 2/3 ratification. They like that unanimous thing. And you can look on the Federalists, what the Federalists believe. It's really important to look at who is who, especially when you are creating your public service announcement, who you're addressing. So if you're an anti-federalist, you need to look at the fact that these are states' rights, small farmers, the illiterate, debtors, the poorer people. Federalists, well-educated property, most live in settled areas along the coast. So make sure that you know that difference as well. All right, loose confederation on page 15, we have the governments under the Articles of the Confederation and the government under the Constitution and what that looks like. All right. Okay. So we are ready to take, we're going to start with our SAQ because that's timed and we can get going. And